Hey, what's going on, guys? Oink here, bringing you some more Battlefield 3 gameplay. I'm bringing you a game of, if I'm not mistaken, something rather peak, like hammer canned or something weird like that. And this is Conquest. So in Conquest, you actually play in the tunnel underneath the peak. For those of you that might not be sure what this level is, or if you play Rush more than Conquest, the Rush version of this one is the one where the attackers get to do that base jump off the helipad for the last base at the very bottom of the mountain. But on this one, this is actually played right at the bottom, and you play through this tunnel here. And you don't ever go further up. It's just all the way through. And in this gameplay, I'm using the A91, which is a weapon that's unlocked for the engineer class. And I've been looking forward to this gun because a lot of people have been using it. I've noticed, I get killed by it quite a lot. I thought it looked like it was a pretty decent gun. And when I unlocked it, I'm level about 16 here, but it's not a personal defense weapon. For those of you that don't know, a personal defense weapon are those ones that you can actually use for any class. So stuff like the UMP or the PP2000. Those are the personal defense weapons. But this is actually a engineer specific gun. It's not so much an SMG, I don't know, I think it's a carbine actually, so you're kind of falling it between an SMG and an assault rifle probably. Generally taking medium to close range encounters. It does have single fire, not burst fire, so you got fully auto and single fire, so you can take people out a bit further away, but I would recommend it at medium and close range. Now, I did want to talk about generally the engineer class and also this setup that I'm using right now with this gun, because I've been finding it has been very effective. It's on the whole, I think the engineer class is one of those ones which is almost necessary when you play a game of Battlefield, especially going back to Bad Company 2. Let's say it was almost essential to have either a member of each class type in your squad if you're playing properly organised, or at least a nice balance in your whole team, with a few playing recon, a few playing engineer, a few assault, a few medic, and in this game I've been finding that although it is still really good to have a balance of each, I've been finding things like the engineer and the medic, or the assault, whichever you wanna call it, is probably slightly more useful as a team situation. I've been finding that the recon doesn't quite have the abilities that it used to have. It's obviously got other abilities in place, and those are useful abilities. But I think that the gadgets and the attachments, etc., that you can get for the recon maybe aren't quite as focused as they were in Bad Company 2, where you had C4 or mortar strikes or that sort of thing. I know you have got similar sorts of things, but I do feel that on the whole the recon is a more sort of lone wolf thing. So I go back to my original point that it's still great to have a balance. If you do have a good player playing recon, that's still gonna help your team out loads if you're spotting players and that sort of thing. And similarly with the support, due to the fact that there is an ammo proficiency, or whatever, is it proficiency? I think it's proficiency, or something like that. No, I don't know. The ammo bonus anyway. You can get sprint or ammo or cover or those sorts of things. It seems like ammo is the one that a lot of people are using primarily, and for that reason, the ammo packs that the support player can lay down aren't necessarily as useful as they would otherwise be. And you can see I switched to the UMP here. I didn't even realise I'd done that, but okay. So I have been finding that, like I was saying originally, that the support and the recon aren't quite as useful and as team focused as perhaps the medic / assault and the engineer, which is why I've actually been spending most of my time as engineer and leveling that up primarily. I find that there is so much, air support and so much ground support, armor on the ground. Using the engineer is, as in, if you don't have engineers, then you probably will lose. Whereas if you don't have scout, if you don't have recon players, then it's probably not necessarily going to affect your chances as much. You know what I mean? Like, you can get away with not having recon players, but you would struggle to get away without having a couple engineers. And it's noticeable if no one's an engineer. There are just tanks rolling around, and it's a right pain, and they do cause you lots of trouble. So for that reason, I have been spending most of my time using the engineer class and leveling that up. And having got that A91, actually, I've been finding it is actually an extremely good gun. I've been having some really good games with it, getting high kill games, really being able to push up into their spawn and well, not into their spawn, but into the enemy territory, getting close. But also at medium range, I find it equals with a lot of the assault rifles if you've got the right trigger finger and you're doing the right thing with it. Right here, by the way, I think what happened is I accidentally chose recon and it gave me the UMP, but I actually ended up on B on my own for ages, trying to cap it whilst holding pretty much their entire team off by what it seemed like, until eventually I did get overrun a little bit. But yeah, I did manage to hold up in there. I didn't manage to cap it in the end because there had so much enemy presence around there, but I did a good job of holding them off. And at this stage, I believe I do have a pretty damn sexy score. I think I'm going like 10-2 or something like that. And yeah, so I managed to switch back to my engineer kit. Now this gun is actually a bullpup layout. Now I don't know how much a lot of you guys are going to know about weapons and that lot. I'm a bit keen when it comes to that sort of stuff. So this gun is actually bullpup, which is basically the layout of the weapon. So it means you've got the grip at the front effectively, and the magazine going in at the back. And basically what it does is it reduces the overall length of the weapon, so it means that you can have more compact weapons. And so because of that, you can't actually have stuff like a grip or a bipod on the bullpup weapons, which it's a bit unfortunate, because grip, I've been finding, is one of those attachments which I just have on every class if I have the grip. It's such a useful thing. You've got that added accuracy, well, not that, you've got that reduced recoil, should I say, and it does really help. So having lack of that, I guess, is a little bit irritating, but this gun does handle really well. It's got a pretty low recoil, it's really manageable on the whole, and it's not something that I find is problematic, not being able to have that extra grip on the front. But what I have been actually switching it out for is putting a laser sight onto the gun. Now, some of you may not know, it does help with targeting people. Of course, you can kind of see the center of your where you're aiming. But the main thing that it does is it actually reduces the size of your crosshairs. So you can see the little white blips there, and I don't have a red dot on the laser dot on this, but you can see the size of the crosshairs. And when you have a laser on that, if you just flip it on and off, you'll see them go in and out. You see how much of a difference it actually makes to your hipfire accuracy. And if you're playing quite close quarters, if you're playing lots of close quarter engagements, little corners, little rooms, that sort of thing, you don't necessarily want to be aiming down sight the whole time, because you will have reduced reflexes, and your accuracy may end up being worse if you're sort of shooting whilst turning, that sort of thing. So having that laser sight can really help with the accuracy in the lack of a grip, and it's definitely something that's worth considering with a lot of these bullpup layout guns, is if you try putting on a laser dot, just to have that increased, basically steady aim effect, to put it one way. Another thing I've been finding actually is with the missile launches. Now obviously you've got a nice selection of different kind of launches. You can get RPG style ones, unguided rockets effectively, and you've also got your guided ones and your anti-air, that sort of thing. Now later on you unlock things like the Javelin, which can actually lock onto both, but the problem with that one is, of course, you've got the problem of it has to have a lock on, so you can't use it for personnel. so it's non-anti-personnel, and also you need to be able to see the vehicle for it to be able to lock on, so you sometimes have to expose yourself a little bit there. So I've been finding, my preferred setup is to actually use the RPGs. Now a lot of people are still struggling to use the jets. I know that people aren't crashing them as much, but still they're not as much of a threat as a helicopter, I would think. Like if a jet flies over my head, I generally don't kind of think to myself, oh shit, I better get to cover. Whereas if there's a helicopter with a guy on a mounted machine gun on the side, then that worries me a little bit, and I generally try and avoid it. So using anti-air obviously can help in that respect, and I foolishly chase a tank there but fail. Using anti-air launchers in that sense can be useful, but on the whole I've been finding running into tanks, armored vehicles, even just stuff like Humvees, that's what gets me the most. That's the most dangerous sort of armoured vehicle I find, and for that reason I've been using the unguided missiles predominantly. If a helicopter's really close by or really steady, you can actually have a pop shot at it and try and get lucky, and the most part you'll miss. But yeah, it's definitely my preferred choice of launcher, just because you don't, you're not limited by much. It's not limited by lock on, and you can't only shoot down aircraft or whatnot. So it's got good versatility, and also you got that anti-personnel. I've been finding a lot of times, people try and use, just try and like hide in a house or something. You can just blow the walls up and get them that way, which is pretty sneaky. It's always good fun doing that. And so that's why I've been using the RPGs. I believe after this game I unlocked some stuff for this gun, and since having played with it a bit more, actually I've been using, well, on the whole I'm not a big fan of the optical sights. I generally prefer the iron sights, but I did find this one was a little bit I don't know what the word is, but it was quite kind of obstructive. Once you find your target, it's okay, but you've got those two bars on either side, and it kind of irritated me because you can't, if someone moves side to side, you've got to properly track onto them, otherwise you will lose sight of them, which kind of pissed me off. So I tried the red dot, but because this is a Russian-made weapon, you get is it the Cobra? I think it's the Cobra red dot sight, and the Cobra red dot sight is not good in my opinion. I really don't like it. I've got a few friends who do prefer using that one, but it's got a hole in the middle of the sight, and so you can't actually see exactly where the center of your crosshair is. It's just a bit weird for me, and it's not my preferred one, so I didn't like that. But I have since unlocked the holographic, and I believe it's the what is it, the PKAS or something, I think it is, which is a similar zoom level, but you don't have as much obstruction with the lines, and also you have a center point to it. And I've actually been finding that is my preferred sight for this gun. Having, I think there's a couple more I've got to unlock, maybe like the rifle scope and stuff, which I don't think is particularly useful for a medium to close range gun. So yeah, I have been finding the holographic is my preferred sight for the A91. But yeah, so that's the game wrapped up. Do hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it was a little longer, but that's how Battlefield games go. So 25-7 was the final score. I got about 5,000 score there, and this was just some of my thoughts on Engineer and that particular weapon. Hope you hope you enjoyed the video. And I've got I've got some clips of some stuff coming up soon. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, like I said, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.